for goals, scouting for goals. We want the finish, we want the goal. Scouting for goals, scouting for goals. Say it with us now, let it unfold. Scouting for goals. Scouting for goals.
Hello and welcome to the Scouting for Goals podcast, episode 3. I'm joined today with Dean.
Hello again.
And the man who was missing last week, he's finally returned, the big dog, Ryan.
Hello there, I'm back.
I hope you were happy last week, sitting in your house all comfy. We were sat on a log for over an hour.
Yeah. Was man in demand, sorry.
Very achy situation
Yeah.
to be in indeed.
It was. A bit cold as well by the end of it,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Freezing.
Now, we're also joined by a special guest, and we've tried to keep it a bit on the down low for this episode. But in Ryan's living room today, we've got Daniel Farker.
Hello guys, Daniel Farker here. It has been such a great honour to be on this podcast here with you all today. Thank you.
So yeah, Daniel, thanks for coming on this podcast. It's an honour.
I know what everybody might be thinking. What the fuck?
Bloody hell. Yeah, so Daniel Farker is with us. He might chip in with a few comments here and there.
Yes,
But,
definitely.
Yeah, that was quite a good impression, that was actually. Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so
Not many talents.
we'll try and squeeze another impression in next episode.
Yeah, keep it going, why not?
Quite a good idea. So, how was your weekend last week, Ryan? Me and Dean were out in the sticks, and you just sat at home, not helping. I hope you're happy.
Well, no, it wasn't the case of that. I was a man in demand, but yes, so I'm back ready to go for episode 3, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Lovely, and you should be with us next week as well, shouldn't you?
Well, hopefully, yes, all being well.
Nice one. So, this episode, me and Dean had a chat last week, and we sort of came up with the idea of talking a bit about some of the Wonderkids that are going on in the past and present. So, that's going to be the main basis of this episode. But we'll just have a quick overview of some of the results from this weekend. Obviously, it was the second to last Premier League set of fixtures this week, wasn't it? So we've had Villa-Liverpool, obviously on Friday. I can't imagine you're too happy with that, are you, Ryan?
No, there was a bit of a poor show once again, so I'm ready for the season to be done, but yeah, it's dire times for Liverpool at the moment.
Did you watch it?
I watched the second half. I didn't manage to watch the first, but second half was
Just a poor performance, was it?
It was just terrible. We equalised, and then it just went to pot again, to be quite honest with you. So yeah, I'm ready for him to be gone. But
apparently, Schlott said that he thinks he's still going to be at Liverpool next season. So he's under no impression that he's going to get sacked anytime soon. And I know you were a big advocate for Xavi Alonso, weren't you? And obviously he's now agreed to go to Chelsea. Yeah. So you're back in that position of even if he was to go, which he doesn't look like he will, there's not really anyone to bring in.
No. I think obviously, like I said a couple of weeks ago, that the one that I would have gone for is Alonso. But obviously now he's gone to Chelsea. They've snapped him up quite quickly.
I mean, with Chelsea's track record with managers, he'll be gone in a few
Yeah,
months,
next
won't
in a long line of managers to probably face the axe after so long. You can only expect it at Chelsea.
Good manager though. If Chelsea can keep hold of him, then that'll be a good little addition for him.
Oh, 100%.
Obviously, yesterday we had the FA Cup final. City triumphed in a 1-0 win over Chelsea in that. Just another trophy for City's cabinet, isn't it, at this point? It'd have been nice for Chelsea to have won it. I know they've been out form massively recently, but I've got nothing against City winning it. It just seems like it gets a bit boring after a bit, doesn't it? Same teams winning it all the time, and
Well, City have now, since Pep's been there in the last 10 years, they've won 20 trophies. So they are a winning machine, and it's yet to be seen if they'll win the Premier League or not. But if this is Pep's last season at City, then he's done extremely well.
Well, there is rumours that he's off, isn't there? There's been a video circulating online that looks like it could be his leaving video. Obviously, nothing's been confirmed, but it's...
I think he'd said something about trying to get one more year, though, didn't he? Well, I've heard something about another year. I'm sure I'd read something about that this morning. Possibly.
That'd be interesting, though, definitely. And I mean, the other game, one of the games that were on today was the Man United Nottingham Forest game. Man United winning 3-2 in that. obviously the bloke who hasn't cut his hair in how long, he can't even complete that challenge this season now, can he? Because there's obviously not 5 games left. So that's going to roll into next season for him. But I do think United might be up for a good season next year because they've appointed Carrick, haven't they, now on a full-time...
They've made him on a permanent basis. Yeah.
Smart business as well, in my opinion. I think he's done such a great job for United. I'm not surprised at all that they've managed to...
He deserves
get
the
him
job.
to stay, absolutely.
Yeah. Because there was a bit of talk that... What are the owners called, the English bloke? Is it Jim somebody?
Jim Radcliffe.
Radcliffe, yeah.
So apparently he didn't want Carrick originally. He was quite against it, but I suppose given the job he's done, and he's quite popular with fans and players, along with the results he's been getting, it's a bit of a no-brainer.
I think he's more than proven his worth, so why look outside of that when you've got something at the moment that's already working?
Obviously, we've got Newcastle West Ham coming up. That's an absolutely huge game for both Spurs and West Ham. Spurs have lifted themselves out of the bottom 3. But I mean, back in the first episode of this podcast, we both said about Spurs going down, didn't we, Ryan?
Yeah.
I think, did you say West Ham to go down?
I'd predicted Spurs, but...
Do you still think that's going to be the case?
I think it's looking more likely that it's going to be Spurs are going to stay up, I think. And
well, Spurs have got Chelsea next, haven't they? So it's going to be
I mean, on that day, though, I think the Villa result definitely changed things. Getting that convincing win against Aston Villa, who had a shocking game by their standards, but I think it definitely gives Spurs that boost going forward.
Does Xavi Alonso start straight away, or is he starting next season?
Oh, not till next season.
It's not till next season?
Not till next season.
Right. It's a shame, because it'd been nice for the new manager Bounce to have been against Spurs and just make it a bit interesting going into the last game, wouldn't it? But that's definitely a huge game. If West Ham lose that, I'd say it's pretty much over.
Yeah, I think obviously this weekend is going to be crucial. If West Ham can get something from Newcastle today, and then obviously, like you say, you've got that big game on Tuesday with Chelsea Spurs, and Chelsea are going to do everything they can to make sure that Spurs will go down. So yeah, to be honest, I don't think the manager bench would need any incentive for Chelsea to try and get Spurs to get relegated, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, big games.
Obviously tomorrow we've got Arsenal-Burnley. Burnley already relegated. Massive game for Arsenal. A win would pretty much guarantee them the league. Or would it give them the league?
No.
Does it not mathematically give it to them?
It's not mathematically given, no. I think if Man City win their game on Tuesday against Bournemouth,
of course.
It will take it to the last day. So,
but you'd expect Arsenal to win that.
Yeah, 100%. You'd expect Arsenal to beat Burnley at home.
But that sort of links us into our first wonder kid of the episode. We're going to talk about Max Stoneman, obviously 16 years old. How much of an influence do you think he's had in the games that he's come on in?
I think when he has come off the bench for Arsenal this season, he's been able to make an impact in the short amount of time that he has played. I think he brings a bit of unpredictability to that Arsenal side. I think he's quite fearless when he's been on the ball. He doesn't seem to be afraid to be able to take on players and have a go. And I think in those dying minutes for Arsenal this season, it's proved valuable.
What do you think then, Ryan? He has been quite influential off the bench, hasn't he, for Arsenal this year? He's played 5 games off the bench, coming to about 91 minutes. And obviously he scored his only goal so far of his career against, was it Everton earlier? Yes, it was.
Yeah,
Everton.
it. Yeah.
Now, at 16, he's a good prospect, isn't he, for the future?
100%. If he's managing to get into an Arsenal team that's already, competing in the Champions League final and going for the league this season, then he's not a bad player. And like you say, there has been games where he's come on in like the likes of the Everton game, and he has made a difference. So yeah, I think he's got huge potential.
He has. I mean, that goal against Everton made him the youngest scorer in Premier League history at 16 years and 73 days, which is, I can't remember what I was doing at 16 apart from the GCSEs. So to be scoring in the Premier League against Everton for a top team like Arsenal is a good achievement for him, to be fair.
100%.
I think with young English players in the Premier League as well, it's hard sometimes for us not to get too far ahead of ourselves before they've already fully got going. And we've seen it obviously time and time again with players where, you know, they have some really good games when they're young, starting out, and then obviously they never quite reach the heights that people had set out for them, because I think they get put on too high a pedestal before they're even able to really get going. But I think with Max Downman, when you do watch him play, it's, I think, almost inevitable and undeniable that he's got quality there, and I think hopefully we continue to see that develop.
Funny you mention that, because later on in the episode we'll talk about some of the failed Wonderkids that there's been. But that's a good point. I think if there's a lot of expectation on a player early on in their career, some deal with it, don't they? And others struggle with the pressure and crumble and ultimately never reach the heights that people thought. I mean, Doman is the youngest player in Champions League history as well, so that's another fantastic stat. 15 years and 308 days when he made his Champions League debut. Again, 15, playing in the Champions League. I was playing on the school field. It's superb, really, what he's done. And he joined from Billericay originally. Joined Arsenal from Billericay. So, yeah, decent little acquisition for them, wasn't it? But before Max Doman scored that goal against Everton, we've got the list here of the top 10 scorers, haven't we? The top 10 youngest scorers in Premier League history. James Vaughan in second, and he was second for a number of years, wasn't he? 2005 that record was held, so over 20 years before Doman broke it. We've got Milner on there, Ryan. You'll be pleased to see a bit of Milner. Wazza, Wayne Rooney, and you know how his career worked out. And fifth on the list, Engamoa, who we're going to talk about later as well, aren't we, Ryan?
Yeah.
But Engamoa scored against Newcastle 25th of August last year at the age of 16. He's a good prospect, isn't he?
Oh, 100%. Rio Engamoa is really, really took on his role well at Liverpool at the moment. He seems to be a first team starter at the moment, especially the way that Liverpool are playing. You know, he's really got a wise head on young shoulders at the moment, and he's certainly one for the future, 100%.
Well, going on to what Dean said earlier, obviously some people that don't make it, and there's a lot of hype early on. James Vaughan, second on the list. I mean, I know I watched him briefly when he was at Blues. You know, he scored at 16 and just never hit the heights, did he, after that, really? He had a bit of time at Everton. I think that was at Everton, weren't it, when he scored then, but never really lived up to it. Milner, would you say Milner reached his potential?
Oh, well, and some. I think Milner, you know, the fact that he's still going now and has got the most Premier League caps out of everyone shows you, one, that he's got the longevity, but also the true professional that he is, and you know, that so many different teams have had him in the Premier League, and still trust him to this day. I think, you know, he's a real leader and an example of a good role model.
I think he's one of those as well. He's not ever been flashy or exciting, but he plays his role and does it well.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. His longevity is crazy as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
For his position as well, and the fitness levels needed. He has done really well. Fourth on that list, Rooney. Nothing needs to be said about him. Engamoa fifth. Fabregas sixth. Then we've got Michael Owen. Andy Turner, who, I'll be honest, never heard of him. So, you know.
Another failed one in Makeda at the bottom as well.
That goal against Villa, though. Yeah. Can you remember all that hype around him back then?
Sensational goal, though, honestly.
If I'm correct, he plays in Greece, or he did play in Greece.
Yeah, I think he's another one that's been a bit of a journeyman, hasn't he? Played all over the place, just trying to get somewhere where he can settle, but it's never really fully worked out.
He had a bit of a stint at Blues. I don't know if you remember this, Ryan. He was at Blues for a year, and he was quite good for us. He was one of the reasons we stayed up in God knows how many relegation battles we've had the last how many years. But he was a superb player for us. Now, little interesting fact for you. If I butcher the pronunciation, I do apologise. Ung Kyo Tun is the youngest player to ever score in a FIFA recognised match. Now, it was in Myanmar versus Thailand, right? So it's obviously not a massively publicised game. Back in 2000 in something called the Tiger Cup. 14 years old, 93 days. 14, and you're scoring for your country. And, well, we all know how his career went because none of us have ever heard of him. So, clearly he didn't ever... Well, he never did anything else after that. In fact, that goal was his only international goal for Myanmar, or Burma, as I think it used to be called. So there you go, little fact for you. So my next question is, what age do you think a player is considered a wonder kid? Like, what's the top age bracket before they can't be a wonder kid anymore?
I mean, well, what's the bracket for like young player of the year? I think, doesn't it cut off after like 21? So I'd say it's probably around like 19, 20. I think past that, I mean,
the thing is, the name wonder kid implies they're not an adult. So do you go up to like 18? I don't know. It's a tough
you
one.
hear it commonly, even when players are like 20. Though I think you still commonly hear them being referred to as wonder kids. So I think, I don't know, in those initial first 3-4 seasons maybe, but then I think after that, then they're a bit more established, then, aren't they?
Well, this is what I was going to say, because I also think you look at players like Lamine Yamal, who is now an established player for Barcelona. He's, how old is he? 18, 19?
Yeah, 18, I think.
18. And, he's been established at Barcelona now for 2 years. Now, do you count him as a wonder kid?
I would, yeah.
Because, like you say, if we're saying we would count him as an established professional who would get into pretty much any team in the world, what's the cut-off point? Like you say, where do you count?
The thing is with Yamal, he still hasn't hit his potential.
That's what I was going to go on to say. Yeah.
In terms of that, he's a wonder kid because he's not. I mean, he's a very, very good player, obviously, but
World class, yeah.
A wonder kid would imply somebody with a very high ceiling, and I don't think he's hit the top of that ceiling yet. It's a tough one though. Like when you get to 21, I remember doing like back in FIFA 16 or whatever. I used to build like a young team for the future. I remember signing Yanga Mbiwa from Newcastle. Do you remember it?
Yeah.
I used to shove him at the back.
Kurt Zuma around the same time as well.
But I used to go up to about 21 on that. Now, obviously, this is FIFA, not real life. But it's interesting, sort of where that cut-off point is. I think if you're asking me now I know a lot more about the game. I would say maybe 19. I think 20 is a bit old, because by 20 you should be in a first team, in and around it anyway. So if you're classed as a wonder kid that's still breaking into a first team at 20, I mean, I know you've got, like Jamie Vardy was how old when he, moved to the Prem.
It was late 20s,
for most cases, I would say 19 is sort of the cut-off point. And I think a lot of teams, once a player hits 19, 20, if they're not seeing any more potentially, then they tend to offload them or release them, don't they? So it is a tough one. So next question is quite a fun one. Who is the best wonder kid you've seen live? Now, for me, I think it might be the same for you potentially, Ryan, because I know you saw him play. Obviously, it's Jude Bellingham. I remember watching him at Blues, and I couldn't believe he was 16. He was orchestrating that midfield, wasn't he? He was head and shoulders above a lot of our players, and mentally, he was just amazing. That's one of the reasons he's made it, isn't it? And to be fair, his brother Job wasn't too bad at Blues. Obviously, didn't quite hit the heights, but yeah, two very good wonder kids that I've seen. So, I mean, you've probably seen Engamoa, haven't you?
I've seen Engamoa a couple of times. Like you say, in person, I'd probably agree with you. I'd go Jude Bellingham, because he was terrific when we used to watch him a couple of times at Blues, like you say.
Now, obviously, Dean, you haven't been to the Blues, being a Wolves fan, so
no.
Best one of the kids you've seen them for Wolves.
I mean,
or for an opposition, I suppose.
I suppose technically, because I'd mainly been to Wolves games, it'd probably have to be like the early days of Wolves, before we got promoted into the Premier League, when obviously we just signed Ruben Neves and Jota. I'm sure if we're basing it off 19-20, then they'd probably just be past the cut-off points. I think Jota was around 21 when we signed him. Yeah, rest in peace for Wolves at the time in the Championship. But I mean, around that time, how could you not say Neves or Jota?
Yeah, Neves was
with how they went on to be.
Neves was a great player in the Championship, to be fair.
Oh, absolutely. That goal against Derby is something I still watch on a regular basis.
So there's that bit then. So the next bit is like, you look at, we mentioned Yamal, didn't we? He's 100% the best wonder kid in the world. Arguably one of the best players in the world, right? Some wonder kids, where do you think it goes wrong from? Is it lack of game time? Is it having hype too early on? what do you think the main cause of it is?
I think sometimes they get too comfortable early on. I think they start seeing the money coming in and start seeing the benefits of the lifestyle that football can provide them. And I think there's a lack of enthusiasm, or sort of part of the ambition towards football starts to drop off as they give into things around them in their own personal lives, like the luxuries that come with being a footballer. I think a lot of the time it starts to be a bit of laziness there as well. We've seen it time and time again with players like Ben Arthur and Tarat. They get too complacent, and then the career just ends up being a decline from there.
Ben Arthur and Tarat, that's a throwback, isn't it? Two of the best Championship players ever, in my opinion. It's
Premier
fantastic.
League players as well.
They were.
I think as well. It's sort of it's managing. It's managing game time or confidence as well, because if you bring on a wonder kid when you're a team that's struggling, and you're relying on them as a glimmer of hope, or it's a lot of pressure to put a kid into a team that's struggling.
That's a bit like the Jude Bellingham situation of Blues, isn't it? We were shocking that year, and we relied heavily on him. And at the end of that season, went on to move for 25 mil, which ultimately saved the club financially. But I think in that situation, given that he wasn't as headstrong as he was, a lot of wonder kids, or like 16, 17-year-olds at that time, would have crumbled. So it is a tough one. Now, we're going to link this into Engamoa, right, at Liverpool. Obviously, I know you do like Engamoa, don't you, right? Do you think he's a better prospect than Doma? Obviously, he's played more minutes. He's a couple of years older. So, yes, they're different positions as well, so it is hard to judge. But in 10 years' time, do you think we'll be sat here saying Engamoa is a better player than Doma?
I think like you say, at the moment it's probably too hard to tell. Like you say, to compare them, but also to see what's going to happen in 10 years' time, because you can take different trajectories. I mean, if you're going based on now, currently, then you could possibly say that. I mean, Engamoa is getting more game time than Doma, and he's at Arsenal at the moment, but that's because of the current situations of the teams. In 10 years' time, it could look completely different.
Well, injuries is a big one, isn't it?
Injuries, and also like you mentioned earlier, it's sort of and Dean mentioned, it's their personality as well. Yeah. Because if you look at an example of like a Dele Alli, who he was very good for a good couple of years, and he was seen as a young prospect coming through. And then you look at the way he's turned out now, it can suddenly change.
It's a good point, actually, because managers do play a massive part in it, don't they? So obviously, with Dele Alli, it was when Mourinho came to Spurs. His career took a massive tumble, and it's never recovered, has it? So whether it was Mourinho, you can't blame Mourinho for it, but whether he was one of the reasons for his downfall is an interesting one.
I think when Mourinho, because obviously they had the Amazon Prime series going on around the same time as well, and I think when you watched a lot of that, we did hear from Mourinho as well saying that Dele Alli needs to work harder in training, and he's a very lazy player. So I think we did see a bit more of an insight towards that and what might have been part of his downfall. Coming on to earlier as well, I think another point, especially more with the modern game and how football is now, I think with a lot of wonder kids as well, when they sign for a new team, there's such a high price tag that comes with it as well, because they've only got to have a few good performances. You haven't necessarily got to even have a good season under your belt before you have clubs come in for you for such high fees, I think, sometimes. And surely as well, that's got to play a massive part with a lot of players in getting that fee and seeing, the nerves starting to kick in a bit, because you realise there's big expectations there, I think, when you command a certain price in football.
What does Daniel Farke think of Engamoa?
Daniel Farke personally is a very big fan. Would personally love to have him in the Leeds team. It would be a fantastic addition.
Well, there you go. Big fan. There'll be like a Fabrizio soon, won't there, that he's going to Leeds.
Oh yes, big fan indeed.
So thank you again, Daniel, for
welcome whenever needed.
So Engamoa joined Liverpool from Chelsea for about 7 mil with admins, right? The main reason he went to Liverpool was for game time, which is sort of what we touched on earlier, wasn't it, Ryan? He's the youngest scorer in Liverpool's history with a goal against Newcastle. I think I remember watching that as well. 16 years, 361 days. This season for Liverpool, he's played 17 and scored 2, got 1 assist. So 3 goal contributions in 17. Do you think, if you look at, obviously with him being the youngest scorer in Liverpool history, do you think he's the biggest prospect in Liverpool's history?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think, there was arguments for Michael Owen at the time when he was coming through, or Steven Gerrard when he was coming through as well. Yeah, it's a tough one to tell. I don't, it's a tough one to tell on that one just yet.
So the next rise, it's probably been the biggest rising star in the Premier League this season. Is it Eli or Ellie? I don't know. We're going to go with Eli. Eli Junior Krupi, right? The Bournemouth striker. So before we joined Bournemouth, he was the youngest scorer in FC Lorient's history. Right, 17 years and 3 months. His goal against Nantes. He equalled the Premier League teenage goal record with 12 this season. So he's the first teenager to bag that many goals since Robbie Fowler and Robbie Keane. And he's also the first player not called Robbie to hit this landmark. So well done to him. But he wasn't selected by Deschamps for the World Cup squad. Now we know France has got a very big attack, haven't they, full of quality players. Do you think from a French point of view it would have been a good opportunity to take him to his first World Cup, given the form he's been in?
I think personally it might have been a good experience for him as a player to be able to, witness the expectations of that stage and, to see other players ahead of him and, what he would need to deliver himself to be able to get to that level. But I think personally it wouldn't have been the right time for Krupi because he wouldn't have been getting the game time, he wouldn't have been getting the minutes. I think when you've got those sort of players ahead of you in that France attack at the moment, he's not going to get a look in, he's not going to get game time. Maybe a couple of minutes here and there off the bench, when they've already got a comfortable lead, I think. But I can't really see too many benefits that would have been to France as a whole. And I suppose if you're Deschamps in that position, you're picking your best players, you're picking everybody available. And I think there's so much competition in that France attack. I just couldn't really seen him getting the game time.
I mean, 31 games, 12 goals this season in the Premier League, Ryan. That's 12 goal contributions in 31. Do you think he's a genuine prospect for the future, or do you think he's going to be one of these, not necessarily a one-season wonder, but is he going to have another decent season next year, move to a big team, and then have his career fade out, or do you think he's going to be one of the best strikers in the next 10 years?
I mean, if you're going based on the stats there, he's had a very good season for Bournemouth. But like you said there, mate, it's does he carry on at Bournemouth or does he go to a so-called bigger team? And then if he was to go into to the French national team or go to a bigger team, what would he be like in that position? Because you looked at other players in the past. If you go based on Liam Delap last season for Ipswich, he had a terrific season for Ipswich. He's gone to Chelsea. He hasn't had a look in.
Don't think injuries have helped.
I don't think injuries have helped on that one. But also, it's sort of if you don't hit the ground running straight away, then you don't get the game time, and then that knocks confidence and it creates a bit of a tumble effect.
Well, that's the thing with some of these bigger teams, isn't it? Like when these youngsters move to the likes of Madrid, Bayern Munich, if they go, especially if they're an attacker, they go a couple of games without scoring, fans start getting on their back. It's very hard to get yourself out of that hole then, isn't it, and get that confidence back.
I think with a lot of the younger players as well, it's about making the move at the right time, because I think if you go too early in your career as well, with a lot of these players, it can make or break them, because there's not as much chance and waiting time, I think, at bigger clubs. When you make the move there, you're expected to perform instantly. Whereas I think, obviously, if you're playing for a smaller team in the league, there's less pressure there, there's more time to develop.
Yeah, it's a good point. Again, touching on Jude Bellingham. Obviously, when he left us, he went to Dortmund. Now, at the time, I know the likes of Man United was sniffing around him, and he'd been round the Man United training ground, and Sir Alex was there. Ultimately, he chose Dortmund. And I think the main reason for that is Dortmund are very good at developing young players, aren't they? I mean, you look at even Sancho, when he was at Dortmund, he was incredible. Left Dortmund to go to Man United, and he's done nothing since. Jude obviously did fantastic at Dortmund, went on to Madrid, where he's now one of the most important players in their squad, isn't he? So, like you've just touched on, joining the right club is also very important for these young players. Because I do think if Jude had joined Man United and with some of the form they can hit, as we saw last season, that could have took a lot of confidence out of him, and ultimately it could have been difficult for him to get it all back and not reach the heights that he can do. But it's definitely an important topic, isn't it? Knowing what club's best to join. So 10 years down the line, Ryan, do you think Krupi is going to be up there with sort of your world-class strikers?
I mean, if he carries on in this trajectory, then he's got all the ability to do that. But yeah, it's like I said, right club, what his personality is like, and if he can carry on in that vein of form, because a lot can happen in 10 years.
And do you think he's going to carry this form on into next season?
If he stays at Bournemouth.
Yeah, I agree.
If he stays at Bournemouth, then yes, he's got a good chance.
I'll be honest, I don't think he'll leave Bournemouth. I think they said, there was a quote I saw earlier on in the week, that even at 80-90 million they wouldn't consider. Now obviously that's all talk, and I think sometimes when an offer like that does come in, clubs like Bournemouth are definitely going to consider it, aren't they, no matter who the player is. But he seems happy at Bournemouth. He's getting a lot of minutes. I mean, he's played about 1,500 minutes this season. So I think the Bournemouth fans obviously love him. There's no reason for him to leave yet. Maybe after another good season or two, potentially. But at the minute, I think the right thing for him to do is stay at Bournemouth and establish himself as a good Premier League player.
I mean, Bournemouth got a chance of the possibility of Champions League football if if Villa win the Europa League final in the week. There's a possibility that Premier League position can go down to sixth, and Bournemouth got a very good chance. So you think about it, for Bournemouth, one, to get into the Champions League, but for a player at his age, who would be one of the main players for Bournemouth, to be playing in the Champions League at his age would be terrific.
Now, Dean, you touched on earlier about Wonderkids when they get hyped up at a young age, and not how it can go to the head. Blackburn have a striker called Ty Livesey. He's 14, but so far this season he's had 125 goal involvements over the course of his season. So obviously he's 14, but in the under 16s he scored over 60, and he's also played a handful of times for their under 18s, registering a goal and an assist. There's some massive numbers. I mean, I know it's youth football and it is a bit different, but for a 14-year-old to be performing like that, 2-year groups above him, is very impressive. Now, there's been a lot of hype around him this week. Do you think that can go to his head and ultimately start to derail his career? I know he's only 14 and he's not near the first team yet, but I mean, imagine a 14-year-old kid and you're getting all this media hype on him. Do you think it does go to your head, or do you think you could stay quite grounded?
I think, again, it depends a lot on the own player's personal attitudes and how they are and how they operate as a human. But I think, obviously, when you've had that sort of a season, there's no doubt going to be any sort of plenty of hype around you at that time. Because I think looking at that 125 goals and assists is outrageous, I think, for any age group. And we see it quite often with youth football. We get quite big numbers for certain players. I think the ability then, which really determines how good of a player they're going to be, is then if they're able to replicate that at a professional level. So I suppose that will remain to be seen. But
I mean, a good example of that is Sufa Makoko.
Yeah.
Now, I remember he was a big lad, weren't he, when he was young, compared to a lot of the people that he was against. And he was in Dortmund's youth academy, but at 13 he was playing for their under 17s, and at 14 he was playing for their under 19. So that tells you the sort of level he was playing at. He scored 141 goals in 88 youth academy appearances. So that's nearly one every 2 games. No, that's nearly 2 a game. Sorry. Now, this is sort of where I think his career went downhill. So because of these insane numbers and him being from Cameroon by birth, there was a lot of speculation about his age and whether he was actually as young as he said he was. And I remember at the time, there was a lot of stuff going on with African players, weren't there? And people not believing that was their real age.
I think there was one that was quite common knowledge in Italy. I'm not sure on the side he played for. I think it might have been Napoli or Lazio, maybe.
Was that Joseph Manala?
That's the one, yeah, that's the one I was thinking of.
He's apparently only 26.
Yeah, that was quite a big one. I remember that being quite viral.
But Moukoko, on his 16th birthday, he became the youngest player in Bundesliga history at 16 years and a day. And he was the youngest player to play in the Champions League as well. But obviously that's since been broken by Doman. So, what was his downfall? Because clearly he had the talent at an early age. Where do you think it went downhill?
I think when he was at Dortmund, I remember hearing about he struggled a bit with injuries and things like that. I think when you're at Dortmund as well, you've got such quality strikers ahead of you. You know, having players like Erling Haaland, Haller, Guirassy later on. And I think he just struggled to find his feet going forward. I think when you're not getting those minutes and you're in and out of the side with injuries and things like that, it's definitely going to take a big toll on any player. Because I remember Erling Haaland personally himself, when he was at Dortmund, was saying about how big he thought Moukoko was going to be as a player, and saying that he had all this potential and that he expects him to have a high ceiling. So to see that it's not quite gone that way is a bit of a shame.
Getting that type of praise as well for a player like Haaland is a big expectation, isn't it, for a 16-year-old? Obviously, it didn't quite work out for him at Dortmund. He went out on loan to Nice in France before ultimately getting a permanent move at Copenhagen in Denmark, which is where he is now. And it's a shame for him, really, because them numbers early on. I mean, he's probably, early 20s now. So there is still time for him to improve and get better, but at this precise moment all the hype around him's faded. There's not much hope left, is there, that he's ever going to hit them heights. So it's a shame. Another wonder kid that we discussed last week, Dean, was, I don't know if you remember him, Ryan, he had a massive potential on FIFA. Hachin Mastor, do you remember him?
Yeah, the name rings a bell.
Yeah, he was. Didn't you say he was a freestyler originally?
Yeah, he got quite viral early on in his career when he was a teenager for being like a freestyle and having being able to do all these flashy tricks and things like that out in the street.
I mean, yeah, famous online, weren't he? And he was playing at Reggiana in Italy. And he had approaches from the likes of Juve, Barca, Real, Man City. And at 14, ended up going to AC Milan for £500,000. At 14, being worth that much is crazy.
Already immense pressure at such a young age.
And I remember on FIFA, when I used to build these blooming young teams, I say we had about 92, 93 potential. It was
around the same time as Odegaard as well. So I think you had Mastor on one side and then you had Odegaard. So a lot of FIFA players were typically choosing one or the other.
Mastor obviously had the 5-star skills, didn't he? Which would have gone a long way.
Made him quite a mainstay in a lot of teams.
Now, unfortunately for him, he just didn't work, did it, at Milan? There was a lot of talk that technically he was amazing, but his off-the-ball knowledge and his actual knowledge of playing in an 11-a-side game just wasn't good enough for professional football.
I think it was one of those where in clips he looked very impressive, but then he didn't actually have the know-how and the professionalism to implement it in a game or adjust to anybody's style of play.
I mean, he's also Morocco's youngest ever national team player, and unfortunately it was his only appearance as well. Made one appearance and that was it. Which, I mean, back in when do you reckon he was around? About 2014, weren't it?
I think it was a bit later on, 16, I want to say, 16, 17.
The Morocco team wasn't it wasn't as good as it is now.
No.
So for him not to have got another appearance says a lot. I mean, I know his lack of minutes wouldn't have helped, but I mean, we've got his list of teams he's played for. So he was at Milan for 4 years. He had a bit of a stint in Malaga, a bit of a stint at Pexwol in the Netherlands. Lamia, no idea where they're from. Regina, back in Italy. Carpi, also in Italy. Then the likes of Renaissance Zemamra, Union de Torgra and Virtus Verona. So it's a shame for him, really, because given starting your career at AC Milan, being worth £500,000 at 14, and you're playing for Virtus Verona. It's been a bit of a shame for him. I think he's still about 25, 26. That's how young he was when he burst onto the scene. Just like Michael Richards would say.
Well, I think if you look at his first 5 seasons as well, he's only managed to amass around 10 appearances, I think, up to that point. So I think clearly there's something there at that time to show that he wasn't deserving to get those minutes, or there was an issue that he was struggling with. I remember hearing a lot about he was struggling with the physical side of the game of football, because obviously he's not going to get that time on the ball to be able to showcase all this flashy style of play. And I remember hearing as well about, again, I think it was another case of one of those players that had a bit of an attitude problem and a bit of a commitment when it came to football. So I think not getting those chances as well would certainly align with those things being said.
Another wonder kid I've just thought of while we were talking about that, Michael Richards. What a great example. He burst onto the scene, as he'd say, at Man City. And, he was very athletic for a defender. And back then, there weren't many fast centre-backs, were there? You look at like some Mertesacker that were around as well. None of them were filled with as much pace as they are now, like Van der Ven. But obviously injuries didn't help his career. But it's just interesting how a player can just not live up to it, isn't he? It's a shame for him, because I think he'd have been a good player for England. The other player that we've got to mention, Neymar. Now, we had a brief discussion about this before we started the recording, didn't we? So, Ryan, do you think Neymar is a failed wonder kid?
No, I don't think a player that has won as many trophies as he has would you'd count as being failed. I think with Neymar, it wasn't just about the club accolades. I think the main goal for him was always to win the Ballon d'Or. I think that was his main target. I think you look at the attacks that he was in, especially at Barcelona and PSG.
That famous MSN attack.
With Messi, Suarez and himself, and then obviously he had Mbappe and Messi at PSG. I think there was. I think for him, there was times where he thought, okay, I'm gonna be the big guy. Or at Brazil, where there's times during the World Cup. I think for him, like I said, not winning the Ballon d'Or, I think that was his accolade. But the other trophies, in terms of winning the Champions League for Barcelona, or winning the league for Barcelona, or the league for PSG, I don't think you can call him a failure.
I think with Neymar, it's one of those ones that's always a bit tough, because I wouldn't necessarily say he's failed at all, because obviously he's gone on to have a fantastic career, put up outrageous numbers for club and country. But I think it was one of those where a player can be so talented that even though they've gone on to have such an amazing career like Neymar has, that even then it still feels a bit like he could have gone on to be even better, because that's personally how I feel with Neymar. I feel like he could have been even better than he was, but I think sometimes, again, maybe a case of an attitude problem, or obviously I know injuries plagued a little bit of his career later on as well. Throughout PSG, he spent 5-6 seasons there, only ended up amassing 112 appearances, so I think that's definitely played a factor as well. But I think with Neymar especially, there was just so much expectation there, and I think in part he did live up to a lot of that, but I think even still he could have gone on to become even greater than what it ended up being.
Obviously being from Brazil at a young age, he was on the cover of Time magazine, and the title of that was The Next Pele. So a young Brazilian lad being compared to one of the greatest of all time in Pele, that's again huge pressure from an early age, isn't it? He obviously then made his first team appearance in 2009, and he developed really quick, didn't he? He was one of these players that broke into the first team and everyone knew his name. He was scoring goals for fun at Santos. And he helped Santos to win their first ever Copa do Brazil title in 2010. So only a year after his first season. So that's very impressive. And he also got 42 goals in 60 in all competitions when he was 18. So again, mega impressive numbers, especially for an 18-year-old. But even back then, he had a tendency of diving, and he did fall out with the manager of Santos at the time, Dorival Jr. So there was a bit of criticism at 18 then for his tendency of diving and his attitude. Now, joined Barca, and in my opinion, this was his best spell in football. That Messi, Suarez, Neymar link-up. Joined for, it was a whopping fee of about 71.5 mil, which wasn't that world record at the time.
Yeah, I believe when it happened, it was the record transfer fee.
Was that the year after Bale or before Bale?
Before, I think.
Before, just before.
Now that undisputed MSN trio, staggering. One of the best front threes of all time, in my opinion. And there was a lot of talk when he left and joined PSG in what was quite a shock move. He went there, like you said earlier, Ryan, because he wanted to be the main man. He wanted to win the Ballon d'Or. And unfortunately for him, that never happened. So it's interesting. I mean, like you said, Dean, he had a lot of injury issues, didn't he? I remember the one in the World Cup. Do you remember that one? I think it was against Colombia when he got kneed in the back and he was out for months. And it seems like since then, he's always sort of picked up an injury. And then I think you mentioned it earlier on in the podcast, Dean, about his sister's birthday. He's always off for that.
Yeah, that was always a missed date because of illness or something always seemed to fall around on that date.
So it's a weird one with Neymar.
Which again points to a bit of a lack of dedication. I know it could just be a general coincidence, but I think there starts to be a pattern when it happens season after season, and you begin to question that a little bit.
Oh, he reminds me a little bit of Ronaldinho in terms of he had all this quality, but Ronaldinho liked to go out and party, didn't he, and go out for drinks. And apparently, in all of his contracts he had, there was a clause that allowed him to have parties and go out drinking and stuff. I think it's a bit similar with Neymar in that sense. Maybe not drinking as such, but he liked to have his own set of rules, and it might be a Brazilian thing, I don't know, but that type of like independence, and he didn't want to be associated going out on squad gatherings as such. He wanted to do his own thing. So obviously Ryan doesn't think he was a failed Wonderkid. You don't think he was either, do you?
No.
It's a tough one for me because he was a cracking player. He is still a good player. But you look at his career history. Santos, Brazilian league. It's not a lot of good youngsters come from there, but you wouldn't put it among the top probably 8 leagues in the world, would you? Obviously Barca, PSG. And that was the start of PSG turning good, wasn't it? But then since leaving PSG, he's gone to Al Hilal in Saudi. And he's now back at Santos. So his career just sort of plummeted a little bit. How old is he now? 34? 33? 34?
Something around that.
That's
so it's a tough one. It is a tough one. And you look at his goals. 633 games in his career. And he scored 377 goals. That is a good record, but I don't know. You look at the people like Yamal at the moment and some of the Wonderkids that have happened previously. You look at Messi. I know that's a completely different scenario, but Neymar was in that bracket at one point of being better than Messi, and that just didn't happen. So I don't think he lived up to his hype. But I would say he was a successful Wonderkid given everything that happened in his career, because he's had quite an eventful one, hasn't he, to be fair. But I mean, yeah, it's a tough topic, isn't it, Wonderkids?
It is.
I mean, you touched on, we said about Dele Alli, didn't we, earlier? Can you think of any more off the top of your head that were hyped up massively and just didn't make it?
You had Adnan Januzaj, didn't you, earlier on in United? So ended up spending most of his career in La Liga. Still putting up, I think, decent performances and respectable numbers, but I think, again, it was another one of those cases where a player comes onto the scene, they're young in the Premier League, they had a couple of good performances early on. I think I remember he got 2 goals, I think, against Sunderland or something, maybe on his debut or first few appearances, and then that's it from there. You get put on such a pedestal, I think, and ends up being so much hype around you that it becomes really hard to live up to that.
Who was the one in America again?
Freddie Adu.
That's it. Freddie Adu.
The big FM Wonderkid.
It just, God knows what happened to him.
No, bit of a journeyman. I think he played for so many teams. Yeah, it was around 14, 15, I think, when everybody was hyping him up, and he was getting, again, another one that had comparisons to Pele earlier on in his career, and then, yeah, just bounced all over the place. Couldn't seem to find his feet anywhere. Another
Wonderkid I've just thought we haven't mentioned about, and I think Dean would like to have a bit of a chat about him, Matheus Mane at Wolves this season. Obviously, it's been a pretty disastrous season for Wolves. He's been sort of your only bright spark, hasn't he? He's sort of the only positive out of your season.
Yeah, definitely one of them, absolutely.
What sort of heights do you see him getting to?
I think hopefully, fingers crossed, I mean, the smart thing for him to do personally would be to stay in the Championship and brace it out, because I think in that league as well, getting the exposure to the intensity of that league, and I think he's going to have, obviously, defenders and players targeting him, being a young, exciting player. So I think that'll be good for his development. But I think we've seen so much from Mane this season when he's come into the side. I think, again, a bit like how I touched on with Dalman, his dribbling ability and his willingness to just take on players, even drawing defenders out of position and then opening up spaces for other players as well. We've seen a bit of versatility with him this season as well, playing on the wings and in midfield, even being able to drop back and fill into like a number 8 spot in midfield as well. So there's definitely like a willingness and, a desire to improve and get better, have more knowledge and understanding of the game. So hopefully the next season we can begin to see even more from Mane and hopefully get a lot of good development out of him. I think personally we should be looking to build a side around him next season and hopefully praying to unlock the best out of him.
I don't think the Championship will be a good opportunity for him to get consecutive minutes and, like you said, have a team built around him. So we've had a couple of DMs on Instagram. The question that I've chose to answer was from Lewis. And he's asked, what's our starting 11s for England at the World Cup? It's a tough one. Obviously, the World Cup, less than a month away now. The team comes out next week. So I think we can all agree on a couple of positions, can't we? For instance, the keeper. Obviously going to be Pickford.
Yeah.
But who would your starting 11 be then, Ryan, to start us off?
Oh.
And would you stick with the 4-2-3-1?
Yeah, I think I would. I think we're gonna have a delve into the England team in the next couple of episodes, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we're going based on the current team right now, I think if I was Tuchel, I'd be going Pickford, I'd be going Reece James, Konza Gahey, I'd go O'Reilly at left back. I think my midfield would probably be Elliot Anderson, Declan Rice, and I'd go, based on current form, I'd be going Morgan Rogers. And then my front three would be Anthony Gordon, Saka and Kane.
No Jude?
Not at the moment, no. I don't. I like Jude, but at the moment I think I wouldn't have Jude starting.
Nice one. Dean?
I think with most of that I'd probably agree. I think on the left as well you can make a case for probably either Lewis Hall or O'Reilly. I think both had great seasons. Anderson and Rice, can't disagree with that at all. I think I'd like to see Rashford in the mix as well, because
he's had a good year.
He's been fantastic for Barcelona this season, so I'd expect to definitely see some minutes from Rashford. It's always a bit of a toss-up with Rashford though, because you never know what sort of Rashford you're going to get. Hopefully we get the one that's been playing for Barcelona this season, but again, it's always one that's neither here or there. You're not too sure what to expect. But yeah, Bellingham in the midfield, obviously in the middle. Yeah.
To be fair, I think I'd agree with all your team. Apart from, there's a case for Trent at right back, arguably. Set pieces and his long range passing abilities, obviously, his key assets, isn't it? I would obviously have Jude in there, but that's probably biased. Now, I wouldn't say Rodgers doesn't deserve a spot. He definitely does. He's had a very good year at Villa. But I've got to pick Jude. Sorry. Absolutely. Probably really biased, but I'm doing it. Madueke, case for him. But I wouldn't have Konsa at the back. I think I don't rate Konsa. I know he's Villa and a lot of people are going to say I'm being biased. But I just think for England, Maguire has never put a foot wrong. And I get for United, he's had a bit of a redemption arc, hasn't he? People are starting to rate him again now. But Maguire from set pieces, I remember some of his penalties in the Euros have just been brilliant as well. And I think he's a good leader. I think he would be a big loss not to play, personally. Everyone else, like Elliot Anderson, Rice, obviously they're your two pivotal points in midfield. And Kane, I mean, we discussed Kane last week, didn't we, Dean? And
first name on the team sheet.
His numbers this year are colossal, so that's definitely our striker. Hopefully he doesn't get injured now before the World Cup starts. So, yeah, the only other thing we've got Kevin, who's the assistant manager at Boston Emeralds in the US. So they play in the United Premier Soccer League. So shout out to the Americans that are listening and all the soccer lovers, I suppose. I hate saying that. Definitely.
It feels wrong.
Well, they're called Boston Emeralds FC, so they have a football club in their name. It's not soccer then, is it? It'd be SC if it was soccer. Anyway, I could rant about this for ages.
Big ups Boston Celtics.
Yeah, Boston Celtics. No, not Boston.
Boston Celtics, yeah. That's my basketball team. Big ups.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much everything covered this episode. It's a bit of a longer one than normal, isn't it? But no, I think we've got some good things lined up, haven't we, coming up? Next week, we won't reveal too much, but something to do with the last game of the Premier League season might be happening. That's not necessarily a podcast. We've got a few guests that are interested, so I need to sort that out and see if they're happy to come on. Obviously, we've had Daniel Farker today, who's been a good little asset to the podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me. I would love to come back again one day, but I'm on vacation for now. I need to have a big holiday.
Honestly, your impressions are so good. So yeah, is there anything any of you lads would want to add?
Well, thanks for having me back for episode 3.
There's not many second chances. Not after we sat on that log, honestly, we were not happy. But now thanks for letting us use your gaff again. It's been a pleasure and
made for more of a comfortable session today. Yeah. My lower half is definitely thanking me for making the choice of sitting on a sofa instead this week.
I mean, to be fair, Ryan, you'd be screwed because obviously none of you really know what we look like or anything. But Ryan's 6'7", so for him to be sitting on this log, it would just be a funny image seeing him sitting on there, wouldn't it? Just towering above us. So, yeah. Hopefully, you'll never have to do one in the woods. We hope. Ryan's absolutely lost him now at the thought of him sitting on the log.
Live Bigfoot sighting spotted in the chase.
I bet you've been called worse than that, haven't you? Than Bigfoot.
Oh yeah. Bigfoot.
My God, he's absolutely lost it. And this, I thought last weekend was quite good without him. So we might not have him back. But no, thank you all for listening. We'll try and release some stuff out regarding next week in the week. We just need to sort it out with Bigfoot, as he's now going to be referred to.
Big dog.
As always, any questions or anything you want to ask us, or any opinions you haven't agreed with, let us know and we can shove them in the next podcast, can't we?
Yeah, speak your mind. More than willing to respond.
And if you any shout outs from like Kazakhstan or Estonia, then let us know. I'm happy to. Got some listeners in America, so that's good.
Big ups to the area. If you know, you know.
Cheeky little Eurovision reference from Dean. Bit of an interesting episode, that, weren't it, Eurovision? Anyway,
yeah.
We're not a Eurovision podcast. Ryan's creasing. He can't contain this. So we're going to wrap it up before Ryan bursts out laughing. But no, thank you all for listening. And we'll see you next week.
Oh, hello. Is this the part where I'm supposed to do the outro? Okay. Fantastic. Scouting for goals. I really wish Leeds would be scoring more goals, please. Thank you. I want to keep my job.
Scouting for goals. James Ryan Dean, let the whole town know. Scouting for goals.